There is a cat sitting somewhere in your life. Maybe it's on your lap right now, doing that slow, deliberate kneading thing that serves no obvious practical purpose, but somehow feels like the greatest honor you've ever received. Maybe it's across the room, staring at you with the focused intensity of someone who has significant unresolved opinions about you. Maybe you don't own a cat, but you stop for every single one you pass on the street, crouching down, making small sounds, completely unbothered by the fact that you're now late for wherever you were going. Or maybe you're just someone who has spent a genuinely embarrassing amount of time watching cat videos online and felt, each time, inexplicably better about everything. Here's what people will tell you about this: that cats are easy pets, low maintenance, independent, a practical choice. And sure, technically, but that explanation has always felt insufficient, hasn't it? Because the relationship people have with cats isn't really about practicality. It's something else. Something more layered and strange and psychologically interesting than they don't need walking. What is it about cats, specifically, that creates such devoted, almost philosophically committed attachment? Let's find out. Start with the most obvious and least discussed thing. Cats don't need you. Not in the way dogs do, not in the way children do, not in the way most relationships in your life do. A cat will look at you, assess you, and make an independent determination about whether you are worth its time today. It might decide yes. It might decide absolutely not. And crucially, that decision has very little to do with how much you want it. For most social creatures, this would be a deal breaker. We're wired for reciprocity. We like to be liked back. And yet cat people don't just tolerate this dynamic, they find it compelling. Why? Psychologists who study human-animal relationships have noted something interesting. The unpredictability of cat affection makes it more, not less, rewarding when it arrives. You already know about intermittent reinforcement from behavioral psychology, the principle that unpredictable rewards produce stronger behavioral responses than consistent ones, the slot machine effect. When your cat, who has ignored you with sovereign dignity for 3 days, chooses to climb onto your chest at 11 in the evening and purr directly at your face, the emotional payoff is disproportionate to the event. You didn't earn it through any specific behavior. It was given freely, voluntarily, for reasons entirely its own. And that makes it feel like a gift in a way that guaranteed affection simply doesn't. There's something almost philosophically clarifying about being loved by a creature who had every option not to bother. Now let's talk about who, specifically, tends to love cats. And I want to be careful here because psychology research on personality and pet preference is genuinely interesting without being deterministic, meaning it describes tendencies, not destinies. With that said, several studies have found consistent patterns worth exploring. Research published in the journal Anthrazoos found that cat owners tend to score higher in openness to experience, one of the 5 major personality dimensions, compared to dog owners. Openness encompasses creativity, intellectual curiosity, a tolerance for ambiguity, and a tendency to find meaning in complexity rather than simplicity. Dog people, by contrast, tend to score higher in agreeableness and extroversion. Neither profile is better, they're just different orientations toward the world. But think about what that means in the context of the cat relationship. A person high in openness doesn't need their companion to be straightforward. They're comfortable with something that's a little enigmatic, a little contradictory, a little difficult to fully read. A cat, which operates according to an interior logic that is genuinely alien to human social patterns, is in some ways the perfect companion for a mind that finds complexity interesting rather than exhausting. You're not trying to solve the cat, you're appreciating it. There's also the introversion piece, which deserves its own moment. Studies consistently find that cat owners are more likely to identify as introverted than dog owners. And this isn't a coincidence of lifestyle, it's a compatibility of energy. Dogs are social amplifiers. They want to go out, engage, be around people, fill the room with presence and enthusiasm. Cats are social moderators. They're there, but quietly. They don't demand your full attention, they don't escalate the energy of a space. They share it. For someone who finds the social world tiring, who needs genuine solitude to restore themselves, A cat is not just a pet. It's a companion that respects the shape of your energy. It sits near you without requiring anything from you. It is present without being demanding. That particular combination, presence without demand, is vanishingly rare in human relationships. And for introverts who sometimes feel vaguely guilty about their need for space, finding it fully honored by another living creature can feel quietly revolutionary. And then there is the purr, which sounds like a small thing until you look at what it actually does to the human body. A cat's purr operates at a frequency between 25 and 150 hertz. That specific frequency range has been shown in research to promote bone density, accelerate healing of soft tissue, and reduce stress markers in the human nervous system. There's a reason therapists are increasingly incorporating animal-assisted approaches, and a reason the cat sitting on your chest when you're anxious doesn't just feel better, it measurably is better. Your cortisol drops, your heart rate settles, the physical vibration of the purr resonates in your body in ways that aren't purely psychological. A cat purring on you is, in a very literal sense, a biological intervention. One large-scale study found that cat owners had a significantly lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease over a 10-year period than non-cat owners. The researchers were careful about causation. Maybe calmer people are more drawn to cats in the first place, but the correlation itself is striking enough to take seriously. Something about this relationship is doing something physiological. The animal is not just emotionally supportive, it is in some measurable way keeping you alive. There's also something worth naming about what cats represent culturally and historically. Because human beings have been in a specific kind of relationship with cats for a very long time, and that history has shaped how we relate to them in ways we rarely consciously register. Ancient Egypt didn't just tolerate cats, it venerated them. The goddess Bastet, depicted with the head of a cat, represented home, fertility, protection, and the more intimate aspects of the domestic world. Cats in Egyptian culture weren't working animals in the way dogs were. They were presences, sacred, somewhat autonomous, associated with a particular kind of feminine power that was revered rather than managed. Even the way you weren't supposed to harm a cat, the legal and religious prohibition against it, speaks to something in the ancient human intuition about what cats are. Not tools, not servants, something else entirely. Jump forward several thousand years, and you find cats occupying the imagination in a completely different but equally telling way. The witch's familiar, the mysterious companion, the creature associated with independence, with the night, with things that don't fully submit to human systems. The cultural anxiety around cats in certain European periods was, psychologically speaking, really an anxiety about anything that couldn't be fully domesticated, fully controlled, fully brought into the human social order. That cats survive that cultural suspicion, that they remain today among the most popular companion animals on the planet, says something about the endurance of what they offer. And what they offer, at its core, is a relationship with something genuinely other. Something that is not a mirror of human social needs, that does not perform affection for your benefit, that lives according to its own internal compass, and occasionally, generously, chooses to share that compass point with you. In a world that increasingly asks us to be legible, to be readable, optimized, responsive, constantly available, there is something deeply restoring about loving a creature that refuses all of those terms. Your cat does not care about your productivity. It does not notice your status. It cannot be impressed by your achievements or disappointed by your failures. It responds to you as a physical, sensory presence, your warmth, your voice, your specific smell, and makes its decisions accordingly. That's not indifference. That's a completely different kind of seeing. And being seen that way, stripped of everything social and symbolic, just as a body and a warmth and a familiar presence, is, for many people, one of the most genuinely restful experiences available. If you have a cat, you probably already know this. Not as a concept, but as something you feel in your chest when they settle in next to you and the room gets quiet. Tell me in the comments, what is it about your cat specifically that gets you? Because I genuinely believe the answer is different for everyone, and I think those differences are more revealing than most people expect. And if you want to keep exploring the surprisingly deep psychology of the things we love and why we love them, I'll be here.